everyone. We have quite the show planned for you today. Maybe our last show because the Bengals suck and I'm depressed. But also Piper's joining us because of storms. We're going to talk about all of that and more next on No Buts About It. Welcome to No Buts About It. I am Josh Butts in my dining room in Indiana. Of course, I've got Piper here with me, which if you've seen Piper's picks, you know her, but she is terrified of storms, so she is sitting on my lap right now until either the storm ends or someone comes home that she can go be with that isn't me. Chus is in his basement in Pittsburgh, Indiana, where the Pittsburghians, the Yinzers,
Did you say Pittsburgh, Indiana?
No, I said the Pittsburghians.
I thought you said he's located in Pittsburgh, Indiana. I'm like,
maybe
okay.
I did. I don't know.
I don't know. It just would have been really funny. But go ahead.
But they are a lot more happy than Cincinnati Bengals fans are after yesterday's performance. Indiana was in a severe drought, and now upon God watching that loss, even the skies weep for the Bengals fan. It's been raining since then in Indiana. I assume in Ohio as well. So God is a Bengals fan, and they need God to fix this team. But first, Chus, let's talk about your boys. How'd they do? The Steelers. What'd you like? What'd you hate?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured, I'm kind of surprised that I got to go first, but I know that you want to save your discussion.
I'm procrastinating.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. But when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I was pretty impressed with how they looked. I had kind of said this all along. I wanted Justin Fields, before I gave an actual justifiable opinion on how I thought he would be, I wanted him to play in a home game because he had played 2 away games. And like I said, it's usually always when you're playing Pittsburgh, you play no matter what city you're in, there's going to be a lot of Steelers fans there. And you could hear them when we were in Atlanta. You could hear them when we were in Denver. But there's something different when you are actually playing in the stadium. And I feel like that goes for any team whatsoever. When you're playing a home game compared to an away game, the energy is always different. And I think that for Justin Fields, although he has played in home games and away games with Chicago and whatnot, it's different because it's Pittsburgh. He's getting used to everything and whatnot. And especially since his first 2 games to start for the Pittsburgh offense, he was going to be put in a situation where he would be playing 2 away games with no full 100% support from the Steelers fan base, because we're obviously not in Pittsburgh. It's probably a lot of stress for a guy trying to learn everything, especially when he wasn't considered to be starting week 1 or week 2. It was going to be Russ. So when it goes into this game, I initially at first was a little concerned, just like with everybody else. Everybody on Twitter was panicking. Everyone was saying, oh, this is just like Kenny Pickett, and who I am actually wearing his headband right now. So funny enough, but Kenny Pickett, I am wearing his headband because not only is Pitt 4-0 coming off of this, hashtag Kenny Pickett, Eli Holstein's the second coming of Kenny Pickett. Probably even arguably better than Kenny Pickett, I would say. Eli looks unbelievable. And Steelers won, and the Eagles also won. So it's just a Kenny Pickett day. So I still have the headband. But nonetheless, when it comes to Justin Fields, a lot of people in the first couple of plays, people thought, oh, they started panicking like they always do in every game. It always seems like the first drive never goes our way for Pittsburgh, and that's okay. It didn't go our way in the first drive, and everyone was like, oh no, in shambles. And the thing is it takes time. You just got to wait and see what happens. And sure enough, things ended up starting to go our way. I will say the one thing that needs to be mentioned is in the game, 2 factors did occur. Number 1, Justin Herbert did get hurt, and Joey Bosa was also or not which Bosa. It's not which Bosa.
You heard a lot of people in that game.
No, Joey Bosa hurt himself.
Bosa was already injured, but you hurt my man Joe Alt.
Okay, Alt also was holding TJ Watt because
You hurt Rashawn Slater, who I think may have already been beat up.
Yeah, Justin Herbert, when he got sacked, also Cam Hayward just it was a half sack. So Cam Hayward came in on his left side. So when he came on his left side, the sack was already going down. I want to say it was Watt, but for another part of me doesn't want to say it was Watt that was good. I think it was Watt that got the other half sack on the right, and he got the half sack, and Cam Hayward came in at the end and landed on his ankle. It was, or like his leg or whatever. So it retweaked his injury or whatever he's nursing down his leg. But none of them were like, oh man, yeah, that was dirty or something like that happened. I didn't even know some of these guys got hurt. Like, for example, I didn't even know Joe Alt got hurt. The only time that I really noticed anything happening with Alt was the fact that he would hold TJ Watt, and they got kind of penalized a lot at points. But I will say, I think having Justin Herbert not be able to play in the second half helped the team continue forward. Not that we weren't already doing well with Justin Herbert in the first half, but I think it pretty much helped us seal the deal. I mean, they didn't score again after the first half. They only scored 10 points, and that was it. And Justin Herbert went to the sideline. Taylor Heineke went in, and Steelers defense ran away with it when it came to that. But when it comes to Pittsburgh as a whole, when it comes to Justin Fields looked so much better than he did in the first 2 weeks. I had known that a lot of people were saying, well, we want to see some touchdowns. We want to see some things going. And although it still wasn't that high scoring of a game, Justin Fields did get 2 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown, and he had a touchdown that he threw. And I think that it really helps knowing that on top of that, that one touchdown that he had was to Calvin Austin III, who really shouldn't even be in the wide receiver conversation. As you mentioned, Josh, earlier in the season, before the season even began, Calvin Austin III is not somebody that should be a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3. But man, did he pop off yesterday, or 2 days ago, I guess at this point. It's Tuesday. He had that 55-yard touchdown. Justin Fields really threaded the needle in that play, and it really helped put a perspective on what Justin Fields can do and what Calvin Austin III can do. Considering Van Jefferson was hurt a little bit, he tweaked himself. I believe they said he poked his eye or something, and he might be nursing an injury as well. Another wide receiver that looked pretty decent was Scotty Miller, who I thought
Scotty Miller.
He looked pretty good. I think he looked good on some of the plays. He also had, I don't remember how many catches he had, but I remember the one play he did have a really good catch and a really good run. And I'm excited to see what he does, considering there's like a whole wide receiver, like above like an average wide receiver room that we're working with. You got George Pickens, and then underneath him, you're going to have Roman Wilson, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin III, and Scotty Wilson, Scotty Miller. My bad.
Put some respect on that. He is a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, I know. And Huntley is also a all-star. I hear that all the time. So yeah, but more or less, it was really refreshing watching the Steelers game and seeing like a pretty competent offense. Justin Fields did have an interception, but the interception, although I do blame on him, also might not have been an interception, because the way that it happened, was he threw it and it bounced up in the air and went airborne and like bounced off of another guy, and then Bud Dupree caught it for the interception.
So it got tipped.
It got tipped to the point where it flew up.
Okay.
So had it just went down, or if it got tipped, it could have also went down. But the way that it happened, it's really hard to explain if you didn't watch the game. But although it was a bad call by Fields to throw it into the coverage that he did, I also think that interception may or may not have happened had it, been in any other sort of direction, or had he thrown it like a second later or something like that. It was just a weird circumstance. I'm not going to defend him for that, because obviously it was an interception, and marks are still marks on your overall record when it comes to that. But I didn't think that he played bad, and I don't think that interception should really mark how well he played in the game. I think Justin Fields looked really good. I think the offense looked pretty good. I'm interested to see what they do with Warren, though. Warren is also nursing an injury now. Kind of concerned, though, because they're not really using him, but they are using Cordell Patterson. And honestly, I don't think Patterson is that guy that we would need as a running back too. But I am surprised with Cordell Patterson because Cordell Patterson is getting the job done when it comes to certain things. He went right up the middle and got us a first down in a pretty crucial fourth quarter moment. So I think that he is a very big part of the offense. I just didn't expect his role is very different than how it was with Warren and Najee last year. It's a very different role. And I don't know if it's necessarily the piece that we would need, but I mean, if it's the piece that helps, it might as well. But I'm just curious to see. I mean, I really liked everything. I mean, obviously the defense is unbelievable. Looks like Dante Jackson's still nursing an injury. He just seems to get hurt every single week. And so it kind of concerns me with him. But everybody else looks great. Highsmith also apparently is nursing a groin injury, but that is also nothing to be concerned of because you have Herbig, and Herbig also looked great. And yeah, so I'm really not worried about this team. This team has a lot of very good defensive depth. Offense is just kind of there. The line is a little bit troubling, but just like we saw on Sunday, even with the Chargers, who they kind of said on the the announcers both kind of mentioned that these two teams, the Chargers and Steelers, are almost like spitting images of each other. They have decent quarterbacks. I mean, Justin Herbert's always been put in like in a league above per se Justin Fields, but I feel like in times he doesn't produce as much as some of those top tiers like your Lamars, your Patrick Mahomes, where he should be at. The wide receivers in LA are decent. I mean, you've got Ladd, Quentin Johnson, you got Joshua Palmer. I mean, they're all right. And then you got this, and when it comes to Steelers, you have George Pickens and then Calvin Austin the third, Roman Wilson, Van Jefferson kind of falls off a little bit. Your running back game over in LA, you've got J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. If I don't even know if he's healthy right now, and then over in Pittsburgh, you have Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. And then your defense is just really, really good. You both have a crazy edge rusher and just like a solid defense. And the way that Harbaugh runs his offense, or the way that Harbaugh runs his team, it's very defensive or like oriented. And I feel like right now the Steelers are running a very defensively heavy oriented team, just very relying on the defense a lot. So these two teams were very big spitting images of each other. So in my opinion, it was like really cool to see Pittsburgh kind of come out on top when it came to that situation. It looked like we did well because the Chargers were going to be our biggest threat. Everyone was like, oh, it's Atlanta, and then oh, it's Denver, and then the real one was going to be LA. And as time moves on, I mean, the way we've looked is impressive, and the teams that we have to play coming up, I feel like it brings you a little bit more confidence as a Steelers fan going up against some of these teams coming up in October and whatnot. So
I got two questions here for you.
First
one, are you a little disappointed by this rookie class at all? Because I know Fayutanu, he's been injured. Roman Wilson obviously hasn't even started yet. I think Peyton Smith has been beat up. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is I would say that I am a little disappointed just because nothing has really come of these rookies, but it is really still early. I really think that Roman Wilson will have a spot in the team and might really come into his own because the way that they kind of described him throughout the 2024 draft and after we picked him up, people were saying that he could be the steal of the draft, one of the steals, just because he's one of those wide receivers that he's not necessarily like a George Pickens who makes like these immaculate catches or something like that, but he definitely has a magnet for the ball. Best way, I guess, to describe it for like a Pittsburgh terms, my dad kind of described it as Roman Wilson was kind of described as like a Hines Ward, where he always seems to get the ball. He's not going to make like incredible George Pickens one-handed grab snags, but he's going to make the plays and he's going to make them happen. And if Roman Wilson actually is as good as they predict him to be, then I wouldn't be necessarily worried. But obviously I haven't seen Roman Wilson play at all. He hasn't played in the preseason or anything, but apparently he is supposed to be coming back. If not next week, like this coming game against the Colts, should be back by the Cowboys game, I'd assume. Fayetanu, it's very disappointing. You know, a lot of like the line and whatnot, they've been injured. I wouldn't say that I'm like disappointed. I mean, it's just a little early to really say if I'm disappointed or not. It's only week 3. It's disappointing that Fayetanu gets hurt. It's disappointing that players get hurt and whatnot. But before we like jump the gun or anything like that, I'm not going to say too much on it, because somebody like, for example, in Baltimore with like initially J.K. Dobbins, if you were talking about drafting J.K. Dobbins, you're like, oh, or would you be disappointed with that class, like your draft class? I would say, as a Ravens fan, if I was a Ravens fan, yeah, I would be disappointed, because J.K. Dobbins has been hurt the last 2 seasons, and he's supposed to be this generational running back that we were supposed to have to help us. And now he's doing pretty decently over in LA. But point being is, I think it's a little too soon.
Okay. And then next, just real quick, I don't know if you saw, but Derwin James Jr. got suspended for 1 game for a hit that he had on Pat Freiermuth during the Steelers-Chargers game.
Mm-hmm.
He reportedly had also had multiple repeated violations in the past as well,
Yes,
against player safety rules, and that contributed to his suspension. Did you think that hit during the game, like when you were watching, were you like, oh yeah, that's worth a suspension? Or what was your like instant reaction to that?
I honestly, if I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have a reaction, because I didn't even see it really, because it happened and I was just like, oh, nice, Patrick Freiermuth got the first down, and that was it. That was literally it. I didn't notice really anything dirty until after people started talking about it, and even then, I feel like it was questionable. Obviously, he kind of leaned in with his head a little bit on the play, but I don't think Freiermuth got shook up or anything over it. And I mean, it didn't look like it was like a helmet to helmet type thing. It looked like more of like him leaning in with his head into his chest. And I feel like that's more dangerous for Derwin James. And with what we've seen with like a Ryan Shazier situation, where you lean in with your head, you tackle wrong, and next thing you know, you're paralyzed for the rest of your life. Well, I guess not for the rest of your life, but for a decent bit of time. And I personally, whenever I was watching the game, I didn't notice it. I was more just excited with how the offense was moving. But I saw it later on. One of my friends said that he thought it was targeting. Another one of my friends said that he didn't even think it should have been. But under the circumstances, with Derwin James having a record, like a track record of these violations, I wouldn't be surprised of him getting suspended, because if you have a track record of it, obviously the NFL is going to be eyeing for you more. And they obviously know that if you're a repeat offender of said rules, that, you know, even if it doesn't look like you were intending to do it, the NFL might be like, well, no, you can say that you weren't intending to do it, but you've done it 5 other times, and now this time it looks a little questionable. We're going to suspend you again. And honestly, I can see where the NFL is coming with that. I mean, there's a lot of players when it comes to NHL and other sports that abuse these different rules and whatnot and get crazy suspensions. I remember Tom Wilson for the Washington Capitals, got suspended for almost half a year for, I mean, he had some ridiculous stuff that he used to do, but for even some smaller stuff, he would get suspended for multiple games and whatnot. I think at the end of the day, I mean, the NFL is just trying to stop all of the issues when it comes to injuries in different circumstances like that, especially with targeting. But I didn't see any sort of like specific targeting. I mean, like you put that clip against like a clip like Vontaze Burfict and AB, I'm gonna say, yeah, that's targeting. Vontaze Burfict should be booted from the league. This guy, I didn't notice it too much. Like I said, I thought it was a relatively good game. I feel like I didn't really notice any issues, but yeah, I didn't really notice it until Twitter started making a deal about it.
You Steelers fans love to bring up that play as much as possible.
Hey, you ruined Antonio Brown. That was your
decade.
fault. That was your fault.
I was 14.
It was the Bengals' fault that AB is the way that AB is now. He was never the same.
Moving on to who the Steelers are playing this coming week. The Indianapolis Colts. They got their first W of the season against the rookie number 1 overall generational quarterback, the greatest to ever do it.
Shut up.
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams, yeah.
Now, I will say, I think Caleb outperformed Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Like objectively speaking, I do think Caleb, despite having the 2 interceptions, shout out Jalen Jones. I believe both of them were to Jalen Jones, who got his first career interception yesterday or on Sunday as well. So watching that game, the Indianapolis Colts defense finally figured it out. I think they finally started getting some stuff put together, stopped the run. Zaire Franklin, huge part of that. He's still not where I think Colts fans want him to be, but he's got a cool story. He went from, I think, an undrafted free agent to now being a starter in the NFL. And they're expecting a lot out of him. And they haven't seen that yet, but this season, but it's grown. It's gotten better. They've progressed. Anthony Richardson, still, he's getting in that throwing as hard as I can thing, and the balls are bouncing off of the receivers. He had another dime to Alec Pierce, deep ball, beautiful. A.D. Mitchell, don't remember him doing too much. Same with Michael Pittman Jr. And I don't know if there's issues with like the chemistry between Anthony and those guys or what, but it's not there. The passing game is not like when we were talking about this in the offseason, I said the Colts offense is the offense I am the most excited to watch because they are going to be so exciting. They're going to be so dynamic. They have not reached that point yet. Now, I will say they finally realized you need to run the ball.
Thank goodness. Yeah, thank goodness. I mean, it took them 3 weeks to figure it out.
It took me yelling at him, but quite a bit. Jonathan Taylor had 23 rushing attempts. It's almost double what he had in his first game, and it is double what he had in week 2. For 110 yards, averaging 4.8 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Good things happen when you give the ball to Jonathan Taylor. You paid the man. Okay, I'm just saying there's a correlation here between Jonathan Taylor having the ball more and you guys winning. There's something to that. Now, of course, the defense stepping up, that's huge. They were able to lock down Caleb pretty well. They made him uncomfortable. Latu made some plays. There were some other guys on the D-line that made some plays. That Colts secondary is still a little, other than Jalen Jones and Nick Cross, I think Speed had an okay game. But other than Jalen Jones and Nick Cross, there's a little bit of in the secondary. Need some more consistency there. Roma Dunze got his first. Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze both got their first NFL touchdowns in that game. So
wasn't it like Caleb Williams' first touchdown was to Roma Dunze's first? It was his first touchdown. What a career defining moment for those two gentlemen. What a career defining moment.
They're fighting over the ball. They were chasing. Caleb had to chase after Rome because he had the ball. But I don't know about this Colts team, man. And I know it's rough over here. I'm rooting for the Bengals and for the Colts, and both of these teams got me in question marks. This rookie class, Latu has shown some promise. I'd like to see a lot more out of him. A.D. Mitchell is not where I thought he'd be at all. AR could be so good. That's the annoying thing. AR is kind of in the same boat as Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence has been in the league longer, so he's held to a higher standard. But both of them are athletic specimen who are built for football. They have long legs, they're tall, they have strong arms, and they should be so good. But neither one of them are performing where they should be at, and I don't know what's going on. Trevor Lawrence hasn't won a game since November of last year. AR is struggling to complete passes to guys, to his wide receivers. I just don't know if he's just hitting them I think he's just hitting them too hard and they can't catch it.
Maybe. I mean, I didn't watch the game personally. I just found it really fascinating that he played really well week 1 against CJ Stroud in that divisional matchup. And me and you both kind of alluded to the idea that, AR is picking up right where he left off at the beginning of the season last year with the Colts before he got injured and was out for the entire season. And Minshew Mania had to run wild in Indy. But I thought it was really odd that afterwards he kind of fell off a little bit. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it happens, but he had a really good week 1 and then week 2 and week 3, especially this past week. I feel like he very well underperformed. And like I said, did not watch the game, but I'm thankful for the Colts fans and the fan base, I'm thankful that they got that they had Jonathan Taylor come through, because everything else just was not coming through in some aspects. I feel like the defense was all right. I like I said, you give them credit, but I think for Colts fans, I'm thankful that Jonathan Taylor kind of came through and they actually ran the ball, because they weren't utilizing him at all. And I'm glad that, and we've been saying it over the last couple of weeks, they needed to utilize him. But I know you mentioned, I was just gonna say, I know you mentioned Trevor Lawrence, but just so you know, like, Jacksonville stinks. They stink. It's like, it's hard to even compare Trevor Lawrence and Anthony Richardson, because Anthony Richardson and the Colts are just not playing to their standards. Jacksonville just freaking stinks. Like how do you lose? You lost 47-10. DeMar Hamlin got his first interception ever against Jacksonville. That is something else. That is something else.
Okay. So many thoughts.
47-10.
Anthony Richardson. Yes, he did. His best performance this season was in that Texans game, but even that stat line isn't great. 212 yards, 47.4% completion rate, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's his best performance he's put up all season. Against the Packers, he threw 3 interceptions. Against the Bears, he didn't even get 200 yards. He had a 50% completion rate, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions against the Bears.
Did he have any rushing? Because he was a big rusher last year. They were talking about how he could really use his legs and could be the next big Lamar Jackson scrambler type quarterback.
I don't think he did. Maybe he did.
I don't know.
No, he had one. He had one against the Texans. He's got one this season. It's against the Texans.
That's what I thought. I thought his best game was against the Texans, because he had the 3 total touchdowns.
But to give context to the Texans game, and if people want to go back and watch the all 22 and check me on this, feel free to, because I've already watched it. I haven't watched it for this week yet for Colts or the Bengals, but if you want to go watch it for the week 1 game against the Texans, there were multiple plays that he overthrew AD Mitchell that they should have won that game. He's just, I'm going to keep harping on it until I see him begin to fix it. Just dial back the arm. We know that you have a cannon. We know that you can throw a 70-yard bomb. That is one of the reasons you were drafted so high. And there will be times to use that. You have Alec Pierce. You'll be able to use that. Hail Marys, they're going to be your bread and butter. You don't need to throw a Hail Mary on every play. You don't need to throw a 60-mile-per-hour bomb every day at your player who's 5 yards in front of you on a screen pass. That happened a few times to Jonathan Taylor. He's trying to catch this ball, and it's flying by him on a screen pass. Or he'd get thrown a hospital ball. He's got no blockers in front of him. He gets lit up. So, like, this Colts team, yes, they won. They got their first win. And I'm attributing that all to the defense and Jonathan Taylor. This passing game has to figure it out. Anthony Richardson, you just paid Michael Pittman Jr. a ton of money. You drafted AD Mitchell very high. You got to figure it out. And I don't know if they need to go out to a bar or something, build some chemistry, get some beers together and figure it out. But whatever you got to do it, because it's rough out there. And you're getting in a tougher division.
I wanted to ask, I know you're more of a Bengals fan, obviously, but going into this game this week, the Steelers play the Colts. How confident, if you were like a diehard Colts fan, how confident would you be going into this week?
I wouldn't be confident. I wouldn't be, because the problem is the Texans, yes, that game was going to be competitive, and it was. That was expected.
Yeah, of course.
Division. Texans are a very good football team. Packers, that game shouldn't have been competitive at all, and they got destroyed. And then the Chicago Bears have a good defense, don't get me wrong, but the Steelers' defense is better, I believe. And even more problematic, I think the Steelers have a better defensive line and pass rush than the Chicago Bears do. Who, again, Chicago Bears have a good one. I just think the Steelers are better. And so now your attack would theoretically be quick passes to the into the secondary with your talented guys, your Michael Pittman Juniors, your A.D. Mitchells, your Josh Downs, who came back last week, and that was a contributing factor as well to the beating the Bears. But what have we seen Anthony Richardson struggle with all season? Quick, intermediate passes. He has not shown that he can do that. And you're not going to have time to throw these deep arching passes the entire game. TJ Watt is not going to allow you to have that time. Cam Hayward is not going to allow you to have that time. You can scramble and do all that, but I really think you're gonna have to keep trying to pound the ball. I don't know how much success Jonathan Taylor is going to have with that in this game, but especially if they get no pass game going, I would not be confident in this at all. And then your defense has been wonky. Justin Fields is on a hot streak. I'd be nervous. I am nervous for the Colts. I think they can win. It's just does the team figure it out in time for the game this week?
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, obviously I can give my thoughts now or later, but I will say I definitely think that the way that Pittsburgh's playing right now and the way that Indianapolis is playing right now, the game could be a situation where if the Steelers perform a lot better, it could end up being looked at for the Indianapolis Colts as a wake-up call of some sort. Not that you guys already haven't been woken up in certain aspects, but I think it could be because you lose at home against the Steelers and Pittsburgh has allowed very minimal points in their games so far. They are really, really good on defense. And right now I know that the Colts are struggling on some of that offensive production. And I don't remember how many points the first two games were with the Broncos and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure that we have like the least amount of yards allowed in the last so many years or so. You go back and you look at the Steelers schedule. I'm just going to go back at least this year, Steelers schedule. I just kind of want to like elaborate and like prove my point a little bit before we move on. But like the first two games, we allowed 10 points. Second game, we allowed 6. Third game, we allowed 10. And although like, first game was Atlanta. I mean, obviously I'd say that's probably a better offense than Denver. I mean, Denver looked pretty good this past week. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Denver got it figured out. Denver did not look too good week 2. Week 3, obviously, you had Herbert get hurt. But when it comes to a situation with Anthony Richardson, the Steelers like to feed off of the idea of young and experienced quarterbacks. So, might definitely be a wake-up call. But I'm hoping for a good game, considering it's in Indianapolis and whatnot. And we'll see how it goes. But I just wanted to hear what your opinion was.
But there's a ton of Pittsburgh fans in Indiana.
There's a ton of Pittsburgh fans everywhere.
But there's a lot in Indiana. I would not be shocked if we see a lot of yellow in that stadium come Sunday.
And then it'll make it feel more like a home game. TJ Watt during the Broncos game started going like this. So it's really funny to me when that happens in away games.
We'll see what happens, but yeah, I do not think talking to Colts fans and looking at like posts on social media, I don't think Colts fans are confident coming into this game. They're optimistic, but it's a hopeful optimism. Moving on to a fan base that is not optimistic about anything anymore and has had their hearts shattered 3 weeks in a row, including my own. The Cincinnati Bengals lost to the Washington Commanders. Not a sentence I ever thought I'd say.
I cannot wait to hear you talk about this.
On Monday Night Football last night, Jaden Daniels. I had said Jaden Daniels was one of my favorite quarterback prospects in this class, if not my favorite. And Heisman winner out of LSU, just like Joe Burrow. That was talked about a lot yesterday. Had a great game. He looked phenomenal. I think he had 3 incomplete passes. This was like the first game in 87 years without a single turnover or punt the entire game for both teams. Trey West, is that their punter's name? The Commander's punter.
It beats me, man.
I think it's like Trey West or something.
That
But
is
he
obscure
I saw
fact. I barely know my punting.
Tress Way.
Okay.
I apologize, Tress. He apparently has not punted, like, I think they said since week 1. So Jane Daniels has been keeping him off the field. I don't know if that's true or what, but they have not punted a lot in Washington, which that is something those fans have been used to, is punting. Jane Daniels has looked great. He's going to be a problem for teams for years to come.
So excited about that. Listen, Jaden Daniels, he was during that era of during my Madden eras with Jaden Daniels, Jordan Battle, Kyle Hamilton, and Brew McCoy, and a lot of those guys. And I'm very excited to see some of these guys in the league. So Jaden Daniels, Connor is unbelievably pleased.
Time to stat check myself. Tressaway has punted 3 times this season, but all of them were in week 1.
Oh, nice.
They did not punt against the Giants, and they did not punt against the Bengals. So, that being said, it's time for the Bengals to have some hard conversations, and I don't know what those hard conversations look like. The last 2 weeks, I put these losses on Joe Burrow. I have put them on the offense. There have been things the offense did that just caused them to lose games, whether it be fumbles, Joe not looking like himself. That wasn't the case yesterday. Yesterday, Joe Burrow looked great. Had over 300 passing yards. I think he had 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, as we just said. It looked like Joe Burrow. We had deep passes to Jamar Chase. T. Higgins was back. The tight ends were getting involved. Eric All is going to be fun. Like he might be the best tight end we've had since Tyler Eifert. And I love Tyler Eifert. Like Tyler Eifert's my dude. So we'll see. Gonna hold back judgment until we see more, but that's a guy to keep an eye on. Offense looked great. Trent Brown out for the season. Right tackle, patellar tendon injury. Tore it. So said this was the first game Amarius Mims was activated. Good thing he was, because he got put right in there, and it was like, okay, let's see why we drafted you in the first round, buddy boy. And I thought he did pretty well, actually. I thought he held up. There were a couple times where there was one play where he like got lost, it seemed, and the guy just ran around him. But he took on a couple double teams. He looked decent for getting thrown in there first game off an injury. I was like, okay. Let's see. Chris Jenkins had got a few snaps, not enough to really say anything on defense. But that defense was awful, terrible, no good, all like bad. Like I don't know what the Bengals thought was going to happen. Everyone said this offseason, you need to bring in a defensive tackle. More specifically, you need to bring in a true nose tackle. Or you need to bring back DJ Reader. They let DJ Reader walk, didn't sign anyone back. Chris Jenkins has been injured. Maybe, and McKinley Jackson, I'll give them, they drafted 2 guys. We don't know if they're any good. The defensive line has had a ton of injuries. BJ Hill, injured. Sheldon Rankins, injured. But Sam Hubbard, I love Sam Hubbard. The Cincinnati kid, fumble in the jungle. I love all that. I love everything about that. But he might be one of these tough conversations that we have to start having because he's not getting any pressure. The only person who's getting any pressure is Trey Hendrickson. And the Commanders just double teamed him and then watch the rest of the defensive line run in place while Jaden Daniels just did whatever he wanted. He's a rookie. Yes, he's a 2nd overall quarterback. Cool, rookie. Caleb Williams was 1st overall, and he had issues. Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be this generational quarterback. He had a terrible rookie season. I don't want to hear the excuses. This team knew that they had holes. They didn't fix them, and now they're paying the price. We're 0-3 in the Joe Burrow era of football with Jamar Chase. Probably your last season with T. Higgins. What? I don't know how to fix this team. This is honestly like the angriest and most upset I've been with the Bengals, other than a game where Joe got hurt. Because I don't know how they fix this outside of making a ton of trades. And I don't think the Bengals will do that.
I don't know if that would help though. It depends, because like you would have to figure out what you would be trading and what would you be gaining by trading certain players away. Like by trading, like if you traded T. Higgins to a contender just to see if they could make it into the Super Bowl, say for example, I don't know, throw him to the Ravens. And you not that you would, because that would never happen, but you trade T. Higgins to the Ravens because they're a contender and you get a pick for him or something like that, because his contract's gonna be up this year anyway. Like, what do you gain? You'd have to think like, oh, that draft pick's going to be a rookie, but you're not going to get any growth from it this year. You have to almost figure out if you're going to sell, or are you going to buy, or are you going to try to middle off? Because you also don't want to get fleeced either. So
I'm calling the Giants. Honestly, like I joked about it last week, but like I'm seriously calling up the Giants and saying like, what I know you just extended him. But what is your price for Dexter Lawrence? Would you take T. Higgins and a pick for Dexter Lawrence? Because, again, if you're not going to extend T. Higgins, then losing him now, when you're 0-3, I think 6 teams have made the playoffs after starting 0-3 in the NFL history.
It's tough.
At this point, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. You've got Jermaine Burton. I don't know why Jermaine Burton isn't getting snaps. I've heard all these excuses about his attitude and stuff, but every time he gets on the field, big plays happen. He gets open. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know why Von Bell isn't getting snaps. Or excuse me. I don't know why Jordan Battle isn't getting snaps over Von Bell. Defense can't tackle. Dax Hill, he got blown by Terry McLaurin. And it was a great play by Jaden Daniels. It was a great throw. It was a huge throw. But like, there's so many holes. And that really does break my heart to say, because I love these guys. I love a lot of these guys. I know that most of them are trying their hardest, and they love the city, but they cannot figure it out. Something needs to happen. And I'm not someone to hop on the fire Zach Taylor train at all, but if that's something that needs to happen or a conversation that needs to be had, then now might be the time to start having it. Maybe you need to fire Lou Anarumo. Maybe you need to fire Duke Tobin. He's not technically a GM, but GM of the Bengals, because these draft classes have not been great. There have been good guys that have come out of each one, but since getting Joe, a lot of them have not been great.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, when it comes to like your draft classes and stuff, like some of the guys you've drafted were already slated to be generational talents. Like, for example, like you knew going in with the first overall pick that Joe Burrow was going to be that game changer you were going to get. I don't remember where you drafted Jamar Chase at, but everybody knew he was the generational wide receiver coming out. And having Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase reconnected, it just made sense. But like everybody else, I mean, obviously I'm not a Bengals fan, so I don't really know as much, but like I feel like some of those picks that you've made, like for example, like Jordan Battle, I was so high on him, and it feels like you guys aren't even using him. And it's one of those things where it ends up being like wasted potential, because by the time Jordan Battle might start actually producing, it might not even be with you guys. It might be as like a backup safety for the Washington Commanders. I don't know. It just happened to be on that train right now since we're talking about that team.
I'm tired of watching them and I've been someone who's been like, just trust the front office. I trust the process, but their plan to replace Jesse Bates failed. Their plan was Dax Hill. That failed. Their plan to replace DJ Reader, I don't even know that they had a plan. I don't know what they were trying to do. it just didn't work. It was awful. I'm gonna do a more once I watch the all 22 at some point this week. I'm gonna do a more in depth analysis of this. But overall, like right now, my emotions are just like I'm mad and I'm disappointed in this team because this team can be so much better than what it is and should be.
Do you think that um do you think that maybe like some of the free agents that are kind of available could help you? Like I know you said Jesse Bates, like Dax Hill is not the answer. I know that there's a lot of like old safeties available. Like, do you think that could help you, or do you think that you guys have so much to fix that you don't know what to work on? You know,
The thing is, so I don't know why we didn't go after Justin Simmons. I thought it was because his price was way too high. And then I saw what the Falcons got him for, and I was like, we definitely should have paid that. Now the Falcons have Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons. There are no defensive tackles in this upcoming free agency class that are worth anything to help us. BJ Hill, who's already on the Bengals, is the top ranked defensive tackle in this draft class, free agency class. This 2025 draft class is loaded with defensive tackles, but again, then you're relying on a draft pick to develop and hope they can be a starter day one. It just you could maybe they brought in Lawrence Guy. Who knows if he'll be helpful on the D line? I don't know. He's old. He's like 35. We'll see. Safeties, maybe. I don't know that that's our biggest issue. I really think our pass rush is our biggest issue. Zach Carter and Jay Tuafele went from being third stringers to now they're our starters on the D line. That's not good. Trey Hendrickson is all we have right now, and I like Sam Hubbard needs to figure it out because he should not be as bad as what he has been.
so that kind of goes into the next thing. We were going to talk about them anyway, but you've got a game next week against a team that probably should have been your first win, but with the way that things are looking right now and the way that Carolina looked against the Raiders,
Our first win should have been week 1.
It should have been, but it was not. But now your first win could be against them, but will it? You now verse the savior of once Cincinnati, Andy, I don't know what his middle name is, Dalton. And now you go up against him, who he had an extremely great game against the Raiders, who just happened to beat the Ravens the week before. And now Carolina is going to be playing you guys. And with all of the issues that you guys have going on and whatnot, curious to see what you have to say with both Carolina and with Cincinnati going into this game.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, before we even talk about the game against Cincinnati, how I don't want to say damning, but I guess damning is it that Andy Dalton comes in first game with this Panthers offense. By the way, Adam Thielen is on IR now, and slams the door in Bryce Young's face, throwing 3 touchdowns and 300 passing yards, beating the Raiders. What do you think that kind? Because they had said this is just a timeout for Bryce Young. This isn't a permanent benching. But then Andy Dalton came in and just was like, no, sit on the bench, young boy.
I mean, it's for me. I mean, it's one of those things where I think that you go with the hot hand. If Andy Dalton, and I know you don't want to hear this, but if Andy Dalton does go in and beat you guys next week, why would you bench him at that point? Why would you bench him? Because at that point, it proves the point that Bryce Young is just not where you want him to be. And this Carolina team offensively might already be there. And we didn't think it was. I mean, heck, I mean, we talked about, like, we all counted Minnesota out. And Minnesota looks probably like one of the best teams out of that division over there. I mean, they look unbelievably good. And we counted them out. Sam Darnold, are you kidding me? Sam Darnold? No, he sat behind the San Francisco quarterback being Brock Purdy, and he figured out what a Super Bowl contending team looks like, and he just made it his own, and now he looks great. And although he might have messed up his knee a little bit, he might be out this week. It would only be 1 week, though. He would only be out for a week, but I think that it's nothing to be concerned about. The point being is, when it comes to when it comes to a situation like Carolina, like we counted them out, but maybe the reason we were counting them out was because of Bryce Young. Maybe because we figured the offense wasn't good, but in reality, you have weapons that they were utilizing. I know Chuba Hubbard, he had a really good game, and I don't remember what the wide receivers did in Carolina, but obviously, I'm assuming that a lot of them had good games. I'm pretty sure Deontay Johnson had a pretty good game. And I mean, like I said, maybe Carolina isn't as far off from being a decent team as we thought. Maybe they're actually not bad. They just needed more of a competent quarterback. And Andy Dalton is no means the future. But hey, maybe Carolina's getting that Cleveland Browns treatment like they did last year. Cleveland always, I mean, I can't say Cleveland always thought that Deshaun Watson was the answer. Cleveland fans didn't think that, but Deshaun Watson stinking it up this year. Also stinking up last year. I forget. Was he suspended last year? Did he get hurt? What ended up happening?
He got hurt.
Yeah, Joe Flacco went in, and then Cleveland realized, man, we have a competent quarterback. And although that they lost in the playoffs, at least Joe Flacco looked better than Deshaun. And then forward speaking, Andy Dalton in one game looks better than Bryce Young. Now, like I said, he's got some other games to play. I mean, obviously, it's going to be pretty interesting. Andy Dalton has a 2-1 record all time against the Cincinnati Bengals. So it'll be quite interesting to see what Andy Dalton does, considering the Bengals are struggling a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it does bring the question, though. Like, do you think that Carolina is as far off from a winning team as we thought they were?
I don't know. I don't. So here's the thing. Like, did the Panthers win because the Raiders didn't have film on Andy Dalton in that offense? Or did they win because Andy Dalton is just really good in that offense? Dave Canales is a great head coach and offensive coordinator, and we underestimated them. We don't have that sample size yet, I think.
I mean, but it's interesting to note, though. I mean, you also, now your wide receivers without Thielen, you've got Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, who is a rookie, and Jonathan Mingo.
Right.
So it'll be quite interesting to see how Andy Dalton works with those guys, since Thielen was a big merchant guy.
But I will say, I still, this is a weird thing. Like, I really, even now, I still feel like the Bengals should have beat the Chiefs. I feel like we outplayed the Chiefs in week 2. So the Patriots and the Commanders, though, have shown you how to beat the Bengals. The Panthers, like the teams that should have been easy wins, have come in and said, this is how you beat the Bengals. And now Andy Dalton, who you mentioned, has a 2-1 record against the Bengals. The Bengals also do awful against backup quarterbacks. I don't know why. It's just a trend. They do awful against backup quarterbacks. See if that trend continues. Is Andy Dalton still considered the backup quarterback by the football gods? We don't know.
Figure that out.
I think if the question is, can the Carolina Panthers come and win against Cincinnati? I think this is, it's in Carolina as well. So actually, it'll be a home game for them. But can they beat the Bengals? Yes, they can. And this isn't an any given Sunday type thing. This is the Bengals defense has been so bad that they will give up 100+ yards to Deontay Johnson. And that's another thing. Deontay Johnson was on the Steelers. He has experience with these Bengals defensive backs, with this Bengals defense. I'm sure that,
and it's not like this is his first year with Carolina. This isn't like I was in Carolina for the last 4 years. Like, nah, like I don't know how many of your defensive backs have changed since last year, but I mean, it can't be that much.
No. But even if the defensive backs have changed, Lou Anarumo hasn't. The defensive scheme hasn't changed all that much.
Yeah, good point.
I guarantee you, if they're thinking smart, they're talking with Deontay Johnson and they're like, what are some things you've noticed them throw at you in your 5 years or however long you were with the Steelers? So that's something to think about as well. I don't know. I'm not optimistic about this team anymore. And I was someone who was like pounding the table, like we're going to the Super Bowl. Now I'm just sad.
Yeah, I'm sorry
They
for you. I
they
mean,
embarrassed me. I went on Dion's show. Shout out Dose of Dion 2.0, and we did against the spread. The spread was I think 8.5, and they all picked the Commanders, and I said, Bengals have got this. Bengals are gonna win by a touchdown and a field goal, 10 points, easy money. Made me look like a fool.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I didn't watch the game. I was watching Monday Night Raw live in a sold out crowd of Ontario, California, as Jey Uso won the Intercontinental Championship. But I was watching my ESPN fantasy cast as it all went down. And I mean, shout out Jaden Daniels though. He's got 5 total touchdowns on the season so far. Looking solid. He has no interceptions yet, so looking solid for Jaden Daniels. Great quarterback. Might be better than Caleb Williams.
Could be rookie of the year.
I hope so.
Early voting.
But I mean, listen. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know what to say. I really don't. I don't know if there's anything that I can say because I'm not even in the same boat as you right now. So like, I can't even be like, we can confide in each other. We have opposite records of each other right now. So
one of our anchors at work today, he was like, "Oh, well, it's a 17-game season now, so those stats about 0-3 teams may change." And I was like, "Buddy, you're a Lions fan. You know this depression." He's like, I said, "You're happy now." I was like, "I'm rooting for you. I'm not rooting against the Lions," but at the same time, I was like, if this was the Lions starting 0-3, you would not be this optimistic, and understandably so.
I mean, the problem is though, is like, even though it's like a 17-game season and whatnot, I mean, the end of the day, now that you sit at right now is that you guys as the Bengals can now only lose 5 more times in order to get a 500 above 500 record. Which 5 times is like, okay, like, we've got a little bit of leeway, but that means that you've got to win. You got to win like a lot. And no, it's a tough stat. I mean, being down 0-2 or 0-3 is really tough at this point in the season. So, I mean, I'm not saying that you guys still can't make the push. Really depends on how well the AFC does and how well you guys come together at the end and who you guys play and if you guys can really figure it out. But right now, I would be a little concerned as you are. But maybe things will change against Andy Dalton in Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, part of this podcast was to document the journey. I was hoping it would be a winning journey, but we haven't had that yet.
Well, I'm excited for the continuous wins to come for the Steelers. Maybe you meant winning journey as in like Pittsburgh, right? Like Steelers,
I just want one. You guys have 6. I just want
Yeah,
one.
but we want more. We're greedy. We want more.
I just want one. I just want one. Like,
yeah, I know. It'll come. It just might not come this year. Maybe next year. We'll see. I listen. The Steelers, when they won the Super Bowl in 2005, they were the 6th seeded team, which was at the time the last wild card spot. They went in and they beat all those teams. They beat the Bengals. They beat the Colts. They beat I don't remember who we beat after that, but we had our fair share of beating teams, and sure enough, we made it. We beat the Seahawks, so it's possible. Maybe you guys come in as wild card 7 and go in and beat whoever the number 2 seed is at the time, and you clean sweep at an 8-9 or a 9-8 record. Just like I said, I mean, you guys do still have a relatively easy schedule. Like, looking at it from like an optimistic side point, like, you guys still have one of the easiest schedules in the league. So don't necessarily lose hope. You guys can still finish out strong, but I mean, the way that it's looking right now, you really got to figure out some stuff, and maybe being in Carolina will make you guys figure out some stuff. Unless Carolina becomes sold out on Sunday, then you guys are screwed. Sorry, Carolina fans are rowdy.
Send all condolences to Josh Butts. fullmoosepodcast2@gmail.com. That's all I have for today. Chus, do you have anything more you wanted to add?
No, I'm just very stoked. Some of the stats with the Steelers is just very interesting because whenever Mike Tomlin starts the season 3-0, there's been multiple times that he started 3-0, and not only have we made the playoffs, but we've also won the division. and I put my free $50 bonus bet on winning the division in July. So it would be really nice for us to actually win the division because I would win a lot of good money. Okay, yeah, but Josh, who's going to win the division then? It can't be you. I mean, where are we going to put you? Are you going to have you guys win the division right now? The Steelers are your best shot at winning the division right now. I mean, maybe Baltimore, but I mean,
I don't want any of you guys to win the division except for the Bengals.
Okay.
It's not like I'm rooting for the Browns or the Ravens to win the division.
Yeah, I was gonna say you better come on, man.
I'd rather the division get disbanded before any of those teams.
Oh, wow,
no more AFC North.
You are ruthless. What do we become? Nothing. We're like
we are the Notre Dame of
we're the independents.
We're all independent.
But yeah, I mean the stat line's good for Mike Tomlin. Not saying that we'll win a playoff game, but hey, maybe we'll make the playoffs and I can win $420 for my free bonus bet. They win the division, but it's still a long season. We're only in week 4. I mean, that's why I said I was like, it's not. Hey, maybe you could be one of the 7 coming up, one of the 7 teams that make playoffs. Just won't be winning the division. Be a wild card, or maybe you will. Maybe Pittsburgh will tank. Maybe Pittsburgh will go 3-14.
Starts Russell Wilson, loses every game.
I actually had the epiphany that could happen. So I don't think we should. So I've had this fear now that Mike Tomlin just decides that one week we're going to put in Russell Wilson instead of Fields, and then we just get obliterated. So, and I'm afraid for that to happen. So I'm hoping that Fields just keeps winning and goes into the bye at 7-1. And I know you don't want to hear that, but I hope that we can just go in at 7-1 so Russ doesn't have to start. Just because he's so hurt. People are saying that his injury's still nagging him. I just don't think it's worth it. I just don't think it's worth it at this point. And I know Russ was supposed to be the starter, and it's really sad because really kind of wanted to see Russ cook for the first year, but Fields is actually kind of cooking a lot more than he is. So, but
I'll trade you Tanner Hudson for TJ Watt. Straight up.
I'll give you Russell Wilson if you want somebody that can help orchestrate your offense.
Can he play D tackle?
Maybe. I don't know. You could ask him. He could be like, Bengals country, let's ride.
Okay. And on that note, thank you for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube at No Butts Show. Our social media pages are NoButts_show on Instagram and No Butts Show on TikTok. My Twitter is Josh_Butts_2001. And if you would like to send condolences to me for our awful football team that is the Cincinnati Bengals, you can email us at bullnewspodcast2 that's the number 2 at gmail.com. Finally, our spread shop will be in the description, so check out the merch. Once again, if you enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, go do something nice for someone.